Today, you came for a 2-for-1 special. I'm gonna show you how to make a gorgeous salad to start your holiday table off right. It's chicories with some radicchio, a Fresno Chive Vinaigrette, so it's got like a tiny little hit of heat, a scattering of garlicky breadcrumbs, toasted walnuts. It's textured, it's colorful, it's gorgeous. We're doing it in, you know what I'm about to say, a giant wooden bowl, which I have to say just heightens the holiday mood. If you put that down on the table, people are like, oh, what's in there? And then it's leafy greens, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, how light and refreshing. Thank you for thinking of me. And because it is the holidays, and you deserve it, I'm also gonna make you a delicious drink. A Plume and Petal Pink Flamingo. And if you are not already in love with Plume and Petal, you're about to be. This drink is so easy. It is so festive. It makes you feel like you had a personal bartender, but you didn't. It's you. And it's going to take like 3 seconds to make. Plume and Petal are naturally infused vodkas, and they have this lemon flavor, peach, which is my personal favorite, cucumber, and you shall see what I'm going to do to create this gorgeous pink flamingo for you. But first, let's make some salad. Bitter greens. I chose an array. You can use one of these. You can use different types of them if you want. I chose some escarole, which is lovely and soft like this, but does have a little bit of bitterness to it, which is why our vinaigrette's gonna have just a hit of sweetness, and that little bit of fat from the walnuts and the breadcrumbs helps to balance everything out. I personally love this texture, and a little citrus in this vinaigrette is an amazing, amazing way to boost up its natural sort of like sweet, bitter contrast. We also have some frisee, also kind of like textural and green and a little bit bitter, but again, bitter should not be avoided. Bitter wakes your taste buds up, but that's why you need a little sweetness in your vinaigrette to balance it out. Also some radicchio, mainly for the color, but also because it's a sturdier green, it's gonna hold its nice bit of texture as these softer greens start to soak up some of that vinaigrette and get really flavorful. What should we do first? Let's wash some greens. The worst part of any salad making experience. It was definitely the thing that I dreaded most, and somehow was always my job to wash the greens. And now it's our job together. It's gotta be done. I'm just gonna leave the leaves nice and kind of large and textured, but not so crazy that as you go to put it on your fork, it's going to smack you in the face. We're gonna do it in batches. I'm gonna work my way through, I guess we could put some more of this, some frisee, and then we'll do our radicchio next, okay? Cold water, always cold water with your lettuce. And let's wash. One more time. If you're gonna do it, you gotta make sure your lettuce is dry. Otherwise your vinaigrette goes slipping away and your salad tastes like nothing. And by the way, if you are a pre-planner and you're trying to get some stuff done before, the day of, go ahead and wash all your greens like this 2 days, 3 days in advance. Wrap it in a little damp paper towel just tucked into the plastic bag and tuck it into your crisper, your produce section of your fridge, and you'll have freshly washed lettuce ready to go at a moment's notice. Last but not least, radicchio. So when it comes to sort of tougher lettuces like this, ice cold water is the way to go. It actually refreshes them, rehydrates them, makes them very crisp. So I'm just going to core our radicchio, our like tiny little mini cabbages. And then I'm going to tuck them into our salad spinner with a little ice water and let them hang out for 10 minutes while I get everything else ready. And then we will spin them dry. And I just cut them into quarters, and then I prefer it, again, to try to leave those substantial, lovely, celebratory, holiday-sized pieces of lettuce. I'm just going to pull them apart with my hands. And this is actually a nicely already pretty firm, very fresh head of radicchio, so it may not need very long in the ice water, but that's your trick if you got a sad kind of wilted one. Okay, so just so you can see, I have the radicchio sitting in our little ice bath here. I'll do it like 10 minutes and then I will drain it and dry them like the rest of our lettuce. In the meantime, let's toast some walnuts. So call it like, it depends how much walnut you want in your salad. I think for this much lettuce, I'm gonna go for half a cup of walnuts. And I'm gonna toast them as these halves, and then I will chop them afterwards into a 350 degree oven. And we're gonna basically time those based on smell. You will be able to smell that rich, toasty, nutty essence perfuming the air. It will smell almost like popcorn. you want to catch them before it gets to burn because the fat in nuts is so delicate. It really does burn pretty quickly. So I'm guessing like 5 to 8 minutes, and then we'll check on them maybe a little bit longer. But that's that. Let's make some breadcrumbs. So I took a bunch of sourdough bread, tore it up into sort of rough bite-sized pieces. And if you want to do this a couple days in advance, you can just let the bread get stale on its own. I just popped it into a 350-degree oven, probably 10 minutes till it was nice and hard. And at this point, we're going to pop it either into a food processor, or if your hard bread is already nice and crumbly like so, you can do it the good old-fashioned way, which is to say, get a plastic bag, tuck your cubed bread inside, and I should say if you want to skip the step and do just like larger, beautiful, more rustic-looking breadcrumbs throughout your salad, be my guest. I absolutely love that. For this particular salad, mainly because the lettuces, except for the radicchio, can be quite soft, I don't want huge pieces of bread. I want the breadcrumbs a little more broken up so they coat the lettuce leaves a little bit better, get into all those nooks and crannies. Get some of that air out of the bag so you don't just puncture your bag right off the bat. And do you know where I'm going with this? Do you have any idea? I think you do. And this is just going to give us nice, crunchy little hunks of toasted bread. Just keep shaking it around. And a few little larger pieces is totally fine. But you want at least some to be that nice breadcrumb texture. I think especially around the holidays, you might need this more than ever. So give yourself the opportunity to enjoy making these lovely rustic breadcrumbs. And stop before you go too crazy. I don't want them all powdery. A little bit is fine, but not too much. Breadcrumbs have been pulverized. And now we're going to make the nice garlicky, buttery, olive oily mix for them to toast in, really for them to fry in. And they are going to get golden brown and fragrant and just be the most beautiful little addition to your salad. Break open your head of resistant garlic. Here we go. Okay. And you want, look, you want lots of flavor coming through with these breadcrumbs, but you don't want them overwhelming. So I'm going to do 4. Let's just give them a quick chop, and then we will just work our way through and mince these up pretty finely. They're only going to cook in the oil and butter blend for a minute before we add the breadcrumbs. So we're not going to give it too long to risk burning, which means we can take the chop a little bit smaller. Let's heat some butter and some olive oil in a pan. You want something shallow and as wide surface area as possible because we want the breadcrumbs to be able to spread out and crisp as they cook. We don't want steaming happening. So over a medium-high heat, let's go ahead and add a splash of olive oil, and that's going to create a nice little glossing on the pan. And then also, let's do 2 tablespoons of butter. And that is going to give us nice golden browning, richness. Of course, that wonderful, nutty, buttery flavor. I'm going to let that, you know what, actually, since it's still cold, I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic in now and let it infuse as the oil and butter come up to heat without the risk of the garlic burning, which is lovely. So while the garlic is heating up with the oil and the butter, I am just going to pull some fresh thyme. I tried to be lazy there and pull it off by the bunch, but it didn't work. So take your time, just pull off maybe a teaspoon or 2. We really just want these little pops of thyme leaves coming through on the breadcrumbs without overwhelming the flavor. Mainly we want garlic flavor, but this little bit of extra dimension I find is always like, it's that thing where people are eating the salad and they're like, what is that flavor? I smelled and I heard garlic popping, which means come here for 1 second, because the one thing that will ruin the salad for everybody is if the garlic burns. So you can see the garlic starting to fry here as the butter melts. Here, class, look at the butter as it melts. So we just want to quickly stir that around. And honestly, this essence of garlicky butter and olive oil that's already hitting me is not just gorgeous. It is also a really good indication that now is the time to add the breadcrumbs, because I don't want the garlic having too much time to brown or get color before the breadcrumbs go in. The breadcrumbs will slow the cooking process and help prevent the garlic from burning. So quickly add those in and toss into the butter. If it's looking a little dry, you can add a splash more olive oil, but give it a second. And we don't want greasy breadcrumbs. We want light, textured, fragrant breadcrumbs. And I ideally would have added the thyme leaves first, but I ran out of time, so I'm going to add just a splash more. I ran out of time for the time. Splash more olive oil into the base of my pan. I created a well. Bring your now very quickly picked thyme leaves over. Stop being so leisurely in the kitchen, Daphne. Move. Okay. Roughly a teaspoon of fresh thyme. Guys, don't worry too much if there's like these little tender stems in with your leaves. They're totally going to blend in with the breadcrumbs. Like I said, whenever your food talks to you, it's a very good sign. Very, very good sign. So we have 2 to 3 minutes while the breadcrumbs toast up to a nutty, garlicky, golden brown perfection, which means we have time for a cocktail. I'm gonna make you the Plume and Petal Pink Flamingo using the lemon drift, which has essences of elderflower and lemon. It's a refreshing infusion with obviously that like brightness and freshness coming through. And we're gonna augment those with fresh lemon juice and also some raspberry liqueur. So it's this beautiful pink color. It's really easy to make. It has lots of layers of flavor. It feels very festive. And it's really easy to make. I took my shaker and filled it up with some ice because if there's one thing I feel about anything that shows up in a coupe or a martini glass, it has to be very cold. It's part of what gives it that beautiful kind of like silky mouthfeel. So plenty of ice. And then we're going to do 2 parts of the lemon drift Plume and Petal. And I'm going to make enough for 2. Just because. So I will do 2 ounces and 2 more ounces. And then I have 2 ounces of raspberry liqueur, adding that into our shaker. And then I want 2 ounces of freshly squeezed lemon juice, which is going to be roughly from 1 lemon, but I like it pretty lemony, so I might go 1.5 lemons. I leave it to you what you prefer. Okay, so we have all of our ingredients in our shaker. Cap it off. Make sure you hold the top. Oh, look at the frosting that is happening here, people. Please observe. This will be you. And do not skimp on this step. I don't care about your hairdo. I don't care about your hairdo or your heart rate. You must shatter some ice. You need that skim of like ice shard on the top. Trust me. I went ahead and created just a very simple garnish, 3 raspberries on a toothpick, because even though we're keeping it simple, we should still keep it very festive. Look at our frothing and our little shards of ice. Let's go ahead and strain it into our beautiful coupe here. Happy holidays to moi. Ah, faintly sweet. I'm not like a super sweet cocktail person. This is the perfect mix. Something else I really love about the Plume and Petal is that it's vodka infused with natural flavors. So you're not getting like that weird kind of fake taste. You're getting chamomile and elderflower and lemon essence coming through. It feels so fresh. It really feels handmade. But it took me 3 steps. The only problem is it's going down very easily. So mindful drinking of my grown-up pink lemonade. Okay, salad. Let's make a salad. Bowl, we need a bowl. She's the star. She is the star of every video. Just for size comparison, it's enormous. That's a good thing. Okay, so here's what I did. We haven't made the vinaigrette. We got to make vinaigrette quickly. I got so distracted and excited about my cocktail. The breadcrumbs are done. Come and see the breadcrumbs really quickly. I pulled them off the heat, and I've just given them a second to cool so they get nice and crisp. But you can see what's kind of lovely is that the smaller pieces, get really, really crushed and buttery. Just soak up all that deliciousness. And then you have a couple larger pieces like so that still have some texture on them. Okay, they're hanging out. Let's make a really fast chive vinaigrette. One thing that I love for this salad is that everything's kind of like rough and textural and torn and played with. So for the chives, which are the sort of oniony component of our dressing, I'm gonna do the same. I'm not gonna mince them super tiny. I'm gonna leave them kind of in like 1-inch pieces. So they almost play like they are part of the lettuce that is constructing this salad. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep my chives off to the side here while I get the rest of the ingredients ready for the vinaigrette. For my Fresno chili, which is gonna bring a little bit of heat, potentially a lot of heat. Fresnos are basically red jalapenos, so they can surprise you. If you want to reduce your heat, you just do this. You're gonna remove the center, these sort of ribs and the seeds. If you take those away, you'll significantly reduce the heat in this vinaigrette. I kind of want to keep some of the heat, so I'm just going to pare away a little bit of this sort of centerpiece. But I'm going to keep some of this, some of the ribs, some of the seeds, keep it spicy. And then you can definitely do it as rings if you'd prefer, but I kind of like to mince this into the vinaigrette because I find it infuses the flavor throughout a little bit better, and almost every little bite gets a little tiny piece of chili in it. Get everyone nice and spicy for the holiday. Keeps it entertaining. Okay. And once that is all minced up, we're just gonna add our chilies to a bowl along with some, let me just rinse my hands so I don't accidentally touch my eye. So I want to add a splash or two of white wine vinegar, and that's our acid here. We can definitely add some fresh lemon juice in. Actually, I have an orange, and one of my favorite pairings is fresh orange with escarole. The sweetness of the citrus playing with the bitterness of the escarole is divine. So let's do the juice of half an orange in here too. You don't want to do too much orange juice or it'll loosen up your vinaigrette too much, and you do want it thick enough that it's really going to coat and flavor all the leaves of our salad. Catch any seeds, toss them out. Now we want maybe a teaspoon or two of honey, depending on how sweet you like your vinaigrette and how sweet your orange was. And some salt and pepper, about a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a few cracks of fresh black pepper. And now we're gonna slowly start to drizzle in our olive oil while whisking to create this emulsified vinaigrette. A good rule of thumb is roughly 2 parts oil to 1 part vinegar or acid. So I'm kind of eyeballing it here, and you can adjust that based on how vinegary you might like your vinaigrette to be. Woo! Spicy, tangy, savory, that little hit of citrus coming through. That is so good. All right, we are in really good shape. I'm gonna add in this gorgeous handful of fresh chives. And all that's left to do now is give our walnuts a quick chop. Get those ready to be layered into the salad. Slake your thirst. Toasted walnuts. They ended up staying in a 350-degree oven about 8 minutes. I almost forgot them. It was a close call. They almost went up in smoke, but they are beautiful and rich and golden and nutty. And that toasted little bit of smoky flair adds so much here in the salad. And you just want sort of a rough chop on these. You still want some tender bite coming through. Walnuts, of course, are such a soft nut. They're not going to surprise you. They're just going to add that nice texture in with the soft lettuce. All right, it is time to build our salad. First things first, get yourself some gorgeous, freshly washed and now beautifully dried greens. Remember, we have that escarole, we have some frisee, and of course you just want to toss it all together so it's combined. And then our beautiful holiday colorful radicchio to give us some body and some texture that will not disappear or deflate on us. It really holds up nicely, which is a great addition to the holiday table so no one's getting soggy lettuce. Let's go ahead and scatter with some chopped toasted walnuts. And even just that, guys, perfect. Perfect on its own with the vinaigrette coming its way. But we also have our garlic and thyme toasted sourdough breadcrumbs to just crumble over top. Now, we must add our vinaigrette. And I also really like leaving the chives a little bit larger like this because people can really see what they're in for. They can see it coming through loud and clear. We've got freshness, we've got vibrancy, we've got heat from that Fresno chili, a little sweetness from the honey, a little bitterness from the lettuce, and a little refreshment from our Plume and Petal, Pink Flamingo. All right, we are ready to toss the salad. I cleaned up a little bit so we can just dive right in. Watch this toss with that Fresno vinaigrette, those big, gorgeous chives, the hunks of garlicky breadcrumbs, and toasted walnuts. Oh my goodness. Look at how it's coating every leaf. One piece of advice is to make extra vinaigrette on this because these are thirsty little lettuces. They will drink it up, and you definitely want that big boost of flavor. Season with a little pinch of salt. All right. Let's dine. And this is just course one. I've got a whole menu of Christmas and holiday recipes coming your way this week. We're going to be civilized. Eat it off a plate this time. Normally I just go from the bowl, but since this is for your holiday entertaining menu, I'm going to do it properly. Look at all the texture and color and sumptuous flavor in this gorgeous salad. You can get a little height here with all these fun lettuces. Make sure everybody gets plenty of breadcrumbs and walnuts, of course. Gather it up, beautiful. Ah, divine. So when it comes to successful, happy, fun, entertaining, I will say one of my primary rules of thumb is to make sure that there's some part of your meal that can be made ahead of time, which this salad easily can. These greens are sturdy. They really hold their own. You can make the dressing and stick it underneath the greens. Put a plate on top to separate the dressing from the lettuce. This is my grandmother's trick. And then right before guests come, just pull that plate away and give it a quick toss and it will hold beautifully for your meal. And they need a drink. Guests need a drink right when they show up, something they can help themselves to even better to keep your hands free. And the beautiful part about a drink like the Plume and Petal Pink Flamingo that I just showed you how to make is you can do all of this ahead of time, leave it in a pitcher, and then you leave it on ice with some sparkling water nearby, and guests just make it for themselves. It makes them feel instantly at home, instantly taken care of. You can prepare your little raspberry garnish ahead of time, and then they help themselves and start getting in the festive spirit, which they will, because it's so good. And then they sit down to a meal that feels enticing and special and celebratory and delicious. That starts with a perfect and versatile salad like this one. The only problem with this salad is I'm very tempted to eat it with my hands because I really want to pick up all the little parts. I want the walnuts in there. I want the garlicky breadcrumbs. I want each little piece of that lettuce combined with the little bit of heat from that vinaigrette. And pair it with a Plume and Petal Pink Flamingo, which is equally versatile and surprising and fun and festive. Next course tomorrow.